welcome everybody to the GigWorks Summit. We are on to the next session, which is an exciting session from Harbor Lockers team. I'm Chief Marketing Officer for Hypertrack, Gaurav Deshpande, and I have with me here Van Tucker from Harbor Lockers, who's going to tell us all about 25,000 lockers and what kind of challenges they have with respect to managing that workforce. So go ahead. I will go ahead and hand it off to Van. Van, take it away.
Perfect. Well, thanks for having me out here today, and super excited to kind of dive deeper in lockers. You know, we live and eat and breathe lockers, but most of you may never even seen the lockers besides those Amazon lockers you may see it around town in the United States. But if you're out in other regions of the country, lockers around the world, lockers are much more common, especially in Europe and in Asia. So today we're going to be talking about hyper local lockers and how we can use really improve your operations and what we call asynchronous handoffs and in creating mini operational hubs with lockers. So let me share my screen here. A little technical difficulties getting in, but we're in it now. So you got visuals, right? There we go. So with this, lockers, maybe thinking, why is operational efficiency really a game changer? And, within the logistics space and, even with gig workers, how do you really save your time? And kind of taking a step back is always good to think of things before, how little simple containers and things have helped. And one thing was like before the 1970s, when shipping containers were invented, the way you would ship items before, you just put them on a ship, all of them kind of haphazard placed on there, and you get what they called break bulk cargo. Very time-consuming process when you unload a ship and then get those through the port and actually to the last locations. And then in the 1970s, with global trade, containers became more efficient, and that really made cross-border international shipping scale from the 1970s and where it is today. And that's where we want to kind of talk about today, is how containers really helped improve shipping, is how lockers can really help even within a gig worker and different last mile and first mile and options, how lockers can help out on it. So that's going to be diving in today. So some of the challenges today within operations we want to talk about, and that happens every day to all of us, is, really optimizing your time constraints. A lot of the times between the 9 to 5 doesn't really work anymore. A lot of companies are going into early mornings and the evenings, and you also wasting a lot of time, standing around waiting for items to be picked up. So those are challenges today in the market, is really optimizing your time and just sitting there waiting for someone to meet up with you to exchange or drop off an item. Some other challenges is, really customer satisfaction. Sometimes if you're doing like a home delivery or a DoorDash delivery, or even doing a more B2B use case, is a lot of customers are busy and they don't want to stand around waiting anymore. And that's where, even during COVID, a lot of more got used to doing mobile ordering and more using additional platforms to manage their gig workers, is really improve that customer satisfaction, and customers have changed their shift of being face-to-face and making it a little more do things on their time. And that's what you've even seen with more hybrid workers in the workplace. And lastly, some of the current challenges in operations is the expense. Is very expensive to have idle time waiting for deliveries, and also really streamlining operations is one of the big things. So those labor hours do add up, and that's what we want to talk about today. Solutions and what we've been doing on our side with other companies and platforms to make operations be much more smooth line, and also provide better experiences to the employees and also the customers. So kind of diving into some, talking about asynchronous and synchronous is what we titled this, is, synchronous handoffs is something that takes place in real time. So just imagine you want to drop off a package, you do that face-to-face with someone if you want to pick it up. That's what we call synchronous. That means you need two people together at the exact same moment to perform a handoff exchange or a pickup. Asynchronous is something that happens in your time. Just imagine a text message. You don't have to reply to that text message right now. You can reply when you have the chance to a text message, versus a phone call is a synchronous exchange where you have to pick up that phone and talk. You don't want to be, unless you're doing voice memos, well, there's asynchronous, but that is a synchronous a phone picking up the phone, two people at the same time, versus a text message. And today we'll talk about how you can kind of use asynchronous handoffs to really improve your operational efficiency and even provide better experiences for everyone involved. So when you think of lockers, a lot of people think of a locker, wow, I used lockers in school. Had a padlock, you put your custom photos on it, they got graffitied and vandalized. We're not talking about these high school lockers. We're talking about next generation lockers that have already been deployed around major cities in the United States. And on the team that we're on, we call them marketplace lockers. We deploy lockers around the cities. These lockers can be done with us or even other companies. And these lockers really become micro mini warehouses where you can drop things off, pick them up in the field, and we'll go over some different use cases, but they're all driven by technology, and that we call them smart lockers. And these lockers can be placed anywhere and everywhere, and they become central spots to really improve those operational efficiencies. And that's what we'll be diving deeper into. So as of today, in the United States, there's over 30,000 locker locations. A lot of these lockers are located at retail stores, they're located at apartment complexes, and now they're even becoming more common in public locations, and you really see them with Amazon. Amazon has Amazon lockers all around the United States, which customers can use for order pickup and returns. And then what we're talking about today is how you can take even to the next level instead of packages, how you can use them for a lot more different use cases than just packages. So when you get off this meeting today, kind of look around, you start driving around, you start noticing there's a lot more lockers. And the objective is have more and more lockers being deployed around the country as more and more companies are leveraging them to improve that last mile and operational efficiencies. So here's some visuals, just kind of showing you where lockers can be placed. They can be placed literally anywhere. We have lockers today at small businesses. We have lockers at universities. We have lockers at major retailers, and they're kind of becoming more and more mainstream as more and more gig workers and other people are looking for contactless asynchronous solutions to really make great experiences and also cut those costs on labor. So the game changer really comes down to technology. Before, lockers were very expensive to deploy, especially a smart locker. You needed to have power to plug it into. You had to have them connected to the internet. And then you also had very large electronics that have been put in these lockers to make them work. So one of the big things that have happened over the last few years is mobile technology and bring your own mobile devices have really significantly increased. Most individuals are now not using the company issued handheld devices. Almost all devices are now being powered by Android or even iOS devices, which lets anyone instantly tap into these lockers. So that's where it really changed made these lockers become more mainstream. One is making lockers faster and easier to deploy with making battery-powered lockers, in addition to making them be easily integrated by bringing your own devices to access them, versus historically, there were very large expenses up front in those integration times. So the technology where it's at today has been the perfect timing to really make lockers become much large scale and much more affordable to be deployed at scale in the United States. In addition, as data is a key component, is lockers give you a lot more visibility into your operations. So with us, with lockers, you can control when people access a locker. So when that person went to the locker to pick it up. You can manage your inventory through your APIs. In addition, you can do a lot of different smart technology where you can take real-time location feeds and really see available locker locations. And that's where you can really find where the best locker you want to use is. And the company that we're part of, we actually deploy lockers around cities, and then people can access them on demand. But the key component here to really think about is lockers can be a great tool to, one, save time on deliveries. In addition, tap into other resources on where to even disperse and store items in warehouse scenarios that we'll be jumping into in upcoming slides. So the big part here when it comes to data analytics is to make more data-driven decisions on where you can put inventory in the field for pickup, for field techs, where you can also deliver, you have items be stored at for pickup. In addition, a lot of additional really novel use cases. We've seen a lot of different companies been using lockers into the industry. So one of my best examples here is Satin Farms. This is a company that is based in San Francisco. He started on the side, a side hustle selling flour. He was milling flour at a little mill he started in his house. And he was like, how can I really, when he started, he was going up and doing deliveries to his customers at first. He was like, okay, I can mill the flours. And on Saturdays and Sundays, he was going around delivering flour to his customers. His demand grew so high, he started thinking, wow, I can't have enough time in the weekend to deliver. So he started exploring other options. One would be how to partner with a delivery company to deliver flour to the houses when it's ready. There's a high expense on that. Then he started looking at doing pickup points where he maybe stays in different areas. He's like, oh, okay, on Saturday at 8 a.m., I'll be at this market for by companies to pick up. Then on Saturday at 10 a.m., I'll be at this location. And what he quickly found is a lot of these individuals were unable to make it there at those times because their kid got sick, they had a baseball game, things just happened in life, so the customers weren't making it there. So he started leveraging our Harbor Locker locations in the Bay Area, where he can go to these lockers, he can put up to 18 items in there at one time. He can then move on to the next location. Then the customers can pick them up anytime they would like through these lockers. This took a time where he used to spend multiple days on his weekend just waiting for people to come. And now within 5 minutes, he just goes there, drops off an item, goes to another location. So now it just takes him a short little morning day. He drops off all of his items for the week. Then he spends the rest of the week collecting orders. Then on his Friday, he starts making the items. And it's a repeat process. This has really let him really scale his business without scaling additional headcount. In addition, we see a lot of field technicians using these warehouse for micro warehousing for key components. You can use these within a city. You can put items that your team may need. That could be core electrical components, even smart locks, which we use at our side. You can use these as micro warehouses. So when you need to do a break fix, instead of waiting or doing an express delivery for an item, that field tech can easily go to the locker, pick up that component, easy to get that break fix out in the field versus waiting. In addition, this is one of my favorite ones, and this is actually a photo from the USPS, not using the locker, but it is a locker. USPS deploys these lockers around cities as little mobile base camps. In addition, on the gig economy, you can store your lunches, your food, and different item in the locker, and then you can come back to them. So instead of having those items with you while you're performing your gig, you can go in and use these as little mobile base camps, and that's what USPS does today around the world. They have these little boxes that you now see, these little green ones. They have no mail slot. They just use them as a mobile base camp to store additional mail, additional food, and items throughout their day they can access through that base camp location. And that is where lockers can come into play as well to really provide a better operational efficiencies on their team. So that's what we really wanted to cover today. It's really just kind of expose you to what lockers can do and how they can really help run operations better, provide any improved customer experiences. And if you have any other questions on it, feel free to reach out to me. I love talking about lockers. I also love talking about anything in the logistics space when it comes into shipping, in addition, anything on last mile and first mile. And I'm really excited to be part of here on this GigWorks Summit today.
Amazing. Thank you, Van, for joining us. Sorry, here's the first question about the public lockers. These are quite popular in Europe, and they are new, relatively new in United States. In terms of when a parcel is dropped off and when the customer picks it up, what kind of notifications are sent out? Is that based on sensor? How does that technology actually work?
It's a great question. So the way the technology works with our lockers specifically, we provide an open API and SDK, which lets our technology fully integrate seamlessly into other applications. So the way it would work is for you to perform a drop off, then all that messaging would stay within, for example, the UPS app. It would not be sent on our behalf because we provide the locker infrastructure, the locations, and the locker connectivity. So for example, when we work with Home Depot, the Home Depot puts an item in our locker, then Home Depot sends a order receipt, order pickup code to pick up the item through the locker through our API. We don't actually send the message, we regenerate the code, and on the behalf of Home Depot, they would then send that code to their customer to pick up the item through the locker.
Awesome. Excellent question about tracking. Are there instances where the customer needs to track when their parcel is coming out to them or when it's getting dropped off, kind of like do a saying, hey, now your person with the parcel is on the way, now they are gonna drop it off. Now it's inside your locker, you can go get it, right? Sometimes, and I'm thinking about my daughter, how she tracks DoorDash deliveries when she's hungry. If this is something critical that a customer needs during the day, is there a way right now that you guys provide that kind of a live location tracking of person carrying the parcel, saying, okay, now they are 10 minutes from the locker, 5 minutes from the locker, now they are at the locker, they have dropped it off. Any requirements of customers in that regard?
Yeah, so the way it would work on our side, we provide a reservation, you can reserve a locker in advance. So when a company wants to deliver an item to the locker from the warehouse, when it gets picked up from the warehouse to be shipped to that last final mile, they can reserve one of the locker doors. And then within the application that platform is using, we work with some other delivery companies that do provide real-time tracking of the driver going to the locker. And then they would provide that all within their application, the actual driving and tracking of the driver to the locker location. Typically, live time tracking isn't as common in lockers because your asynchronous advantage on it, because the whole goal is you don't have to be there exactly when that locker comes there. So often lockers can be done, locker deliveries, we don't recommend to have real-time tracking because a lot of times the deliveries may happen during off hours to improve operational efficiency. So when it comes to lockers, that real-time tracking is not as common to show because that whole asynchronous advantage is there because you don't have to be standing at that locker to be there. So it is an option to show real-time tracking, but typically it says out for delivery. Then we typically have a notification item's been delivered in locker, and then they go pick up the item to the locker, and typically they have reminders for up to 3 days, go get that item out the locker, is the typical integration that we see versus real-time tracking.
Perfect. Last question, Van. What are the most surprising thing as you guys scaled up Harbor Lockers in the United States? One thing that surprised you guys the most in terms of adoption or usage or customer patterns?
Yeah, so one of the the way we built our marketplace platform, we're tracking really unique use cases that how can you use lockers for different activations. And one use case that really drove a lot more volume and interest has been product placement. Is how do we have companies that want to give out product sampling. So we have a company called Placement, which actually works with a lot of major brands, and they do product sampling and giveaways through the locker. So say if you want, they do a digital ad campaign, let's get you this nice Dr. Squatch soap. You can then go there and where's a nearby locker? I can pick it up to go get it. And that has actually been really unique to see people really think of lockers as different ways to disperse items that historically lockers have been a lot of times used for just partials. So that's been one of the most use cases I've seen so far today. with sampling. And in addition, this flower entrepreneur that came up with the use case of distributing his flowers through the locker without, he did that all on his own. He's like, oh, I can use a locker for that, and he kind of really saw the advantage on it as well.
That's wonderful. That story is going to stay with me for a long time, man. So thank you for sharing that. Thanks a lot for everybody for joining us here to hear about lockers. We have 2 more sessions to go for the GigWorks Summit. Next one is about very, very important topic, getting paid. So how do you pay the gig workers correctly, and how do you comply with the requirements that are on the state, county, and federal level? That's what we're going to get into next. Kirti Shenoy from Zeal will join us. So come back to us in 5 more minutes. Take a quick coffee break, but come back to us and we'll continue on the GigWorks Summit journey with the payments next. Thank you, Van. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Have a good one. Bye.